America. This country has found a way to romanticize the gangster. Billy the Kid, the cowboy. We love him. He robbed banks. Jesse James, the cowboy. Hero, we love him. He killed people.
Yeah.
Willie Sutton, and the famous Chicago mobster,
Al Capone, like the real guy?
Al Capone. Al Capone. We adore Al Capone. Everybody romanticizes it.
Yeah.
And we're a country began in violence.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Yeah, baby!
Welcome back to the Up and Adam Show, presented by Mafia Chronicles. Today, we are joined by a dream guest of mine, someone I've wanted to get on the show for a long time. He's a phenomenal actor that has worked on such films as The Shawshank Redemption, Mean Streets, and of course was Richie Aprile in The Sopranos. Please welcome David Proval. How's it going, man?
Like we said, it's hot.
It's hot, man.
It's uncomfortable. It's hot. It's unusually humid. And at the beach, in Redondo Beach, California, we are experiencing something I have never experienced before. And we live in this house 22 years. Mm-hmm. And never anything like this. So
yeah, well, I was just telling David, guys, that like I'm in Canada and I would do anything to be near a beach. So even though it's a massive heat wave, you still got the beach to cool off, right? So
Mother Ocean. Yeah, Mother Ocean is always kind and loving. Mother Ocean will never lie and will always love you.
Well, you got to get a look. I mean, at least you could get a tan now, right? At least you go outside.
Oh yeah. Tan. Yeah, no, I got a tan. Yes.
Right. That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. And like I said, you were someone I wanted to get on for a long time because I love all of your amazing work. And, to kick things off, I want to kind of go back to the very beginning when you first started acting.
David Proval talks about how he got started as an actor. He tells me how he navigated his way in the entertainment industry by doing a lot of off-Broadway plays and just loving the craft.
It was like every other young actor doing a lot of off Broadway, doing plays in basements in Brooklyn, but loving it all the time. It's not. That's the sweetest memories of my life is doing plays in black boxes.
Yeah,
and it's still precious memories.
Of course, and even and how did you land that role? How did you get in touch with Scorsese, and how did you guys kind of collaborate on this?
I'm going to get the story straight this time because one person I've excluded from the story read an interview of mine and she got very upset. So this time I'm going to get it straight.
Perfect.
A wonderful actress by the name of Marilyn Hassett. She's famous for two movies. She played the Jill Kinmont, the skier in Other Side of the Mountain, Universal, big, wonderful. Anyway, she somehow knew John Taplin, who was the producer of Mean Streets, and Martin Scorsese. And at the time, I was in a workshop with John Voight and a group of amazing actors, Terry Garr, amazing actors. We had our little workshop that was headed by a teacher named Jack Walser, who moved back to New York. We were in LA and meeting, and Marty was out in LA. And she brought him, she was a member of the class, and she brought him to our class. And that's how I met John Taplin and Martin Scorsese, through an acting workshop, through the purest way you can meet a director, through your art, not through bullshit, through art. And that's how I met Martin Scorsese. Just as an acting student, I got up to work in an acting class. It was all about my art, not about personality, not about socializing, not about being adorable, but just through my art. And it was a wonderful first meeting. I didn't have to bullshit.
No, of course.
And I'm not going to exclude another actor who was in that room, Richard Romanus, who was also a leading actor in Mean Streets, was also in Mean Streets. He found us both just through our art.
I'm also an actor myself, and I just started taking it really seriously this year. And I've been trying to take as many workshops as I can, working with acting coaches. And I think it's important. I think that's a lesson that many young actors should take into consideration to really take their art and passion seriously. Is there any other piece of advice you could give to a young actor?
I gave this to my two daughters. One is an actor, one is not an actor. I went to see my daughter, my oldest daughter, in a play at college. And afterwards, I went backstage and I said to her, I asked her, did you have fun? She said, no. I said, don't ever do this again. Because unless you have the joy of the work, no matter where you're working, in college, in junior high school, in a basement in Brooklyn, it should be joyful.
Yeah.
Painful, yes, because you're working, but the joyful pain.
Yeah.
Of the, and she knew I was right. She said, you're right, Dad. I never want to do this again. But my second daughter, my youngest daughter, I saw in two plays at her university in Oregon. And I said to my wife, we're in big trouble. She said, why? I said, because she's having a great time on stage. She's joyful. And that means, and she's pursuing an acting career.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what my advice to young actors is. If you need to do it, and it's joyful, well, you should pursue it. But be honest with yourself about what you're feeling about the art. And it's as simple as that.
Cool. That's awesome, man.
The 70s were a wonderful time for film, and they had some of the most groundbreaking movies in the mob genre. You got movies like The Godfather, Godfather 2, Mean Streets, which celebrates the 50th anniversary this year in 2023. But they were also the predecessors to movies like Scarface, Goodfellas, Casino, and shows like The Sopranos, which David got to play Richie Aprile. It's the jacket! And to this day, they are still making movies that tell the story about the mob life. Even though these mobsters hurt people and do a lot of bad things, this genre of film is still so popular. And I asked David why that is.
I think, I'm going to get a little abstract here.
Yeah.
Not abstract, not at all, very literal. America. This country has found a way to romanticize the gangster. Billy the Kid, the cowboy. We love him. He robbed banks. Jesse James, the cowboy. Hero, we love him. He killed people.
Yeah.
Willie Sutton, and the famous Chicago mobster.
Al Capone, like the real guy?
Al Capone. We adore Al Capone. Everybody romanticizes it.
Yeah.
And we're a country began in violence. I hate, this is not, I'm an American.
Yeah.
Born in Brooklyn, New York. I love my country. But I know its flaws, and it's not and so we romanticize. And when the Godfather and the Italian Brooklyn, New York mafia comes along, well, there's romantic, it's sexy, it's cool.
Yeah.
And we have a propensity to it, and that's why. But it's worldwide. Actually, Sopranos is. I shouldn't just. This is wrong of me just to say an American responds to a Godfather or Sopranos, because it is international.
Of course, of course it is. Yeah.
Hey, I've been in Thailand, and somebody comes up to me. Oh, I know you, Soprano. I've been in Jerusalem. People come up to me. Oh, Sopranos. Oh, Mean Street. So it's international. it touches something in people about romance.
Yeah.
And most of all, arrogance.
Yeah. And also too, I think it's also because a lot of these movies and shows, they have this idea of family, right? There's a whole theme of family and stuff.
Absolutely.
And even though it's violent at times, and you still kind of do love these characters, right? Even though they're doing bad things, you still kind of have empathy for them because they still love their family.
They still live the life that you relate to.
Exactly.
That's all exactly relate to. So that when the story is this, that when first time I went to meet on The Sopranos, the people were interested, but they said to me, to my agent, actually, they didn't say it to me, he looks too right. We don't want Tony Soprano to look like he may be a guy who may knock your head off if you drive in. We don't want that. We want the everyman. And that's why the great James Gandolfini, it was blessed to have that man and his looks, big guy, but yet gentle. In a way, you'd want him for a neighbor. Yeah. I'd like to have Tony Soprano for a neighbor. And hey, how you doing, Tony? You all right today? You feel safe around the guy like that.
Oh, remember there was an episode when his neighbor, was it Dr. Cusimano, when he gave that, he always used to mess around with him at sometimes. There was an episode when he was like pranking him. He gave him a box or something. He's like, hold on to it for a while. And it was just a box of sand or something, but he was just messing with him and stuff. It's things like that, I would love to have a neighbor like that.
Yeah. You would love that. And in a way, most people would.
Yeah.
Walking on the wild side. Hey, my neighbor I'm safe because he loves me.
Yeah. It's kind of like Artie Bucco, a guy who was never really in the mob, but always felt like a tough guy because he knew Tony Soprano. He got a little lucky, that guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, so that's why we all respond.
Yeah.
Every one of us watching that show would say, gee, I'd like to hang out with Tony Soprano one day and just, maybe have a pizza with him or something.
You worked with some of the best people, man. Even mentioning Dominic Chianese from Sopranos, obviously, Junior. Great actor, great singer too. He's
a great singer. And Dominic and I, that's not the first time we worked together. We worked together on stage, on Broadway together.
Oh, really?
Me and Dominic. Yeah. We went to Broadway very briefly, but we were on Broadway together, Dominic, in a play called A Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Yes, I've heard of this. Yeah.
We were on a play in 1984.
With The Sopranos too, though, like it's one of my favorite shows of all. Actually, it is my favorite show of all time. Not one of them. It is my favorite show, and and for many reasons. Just to name a few, it was like the first show to pioneer cinematic TV. To introduce the anti-hero, Tony Soprano. And the very most important thing that I think many people related to, it took mental illness very seriously. And that was a very unique quality, I think David Chase and all the writers and everybody put in that show to make it relatable. A mobster going to see a therapist, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. And like, why do you think this show was so well received in your opinion?
Well, you tapped into it about it every family, every Sunday night, a family could sit, aside from age, whatever it was, I don't know, over 16, you can watch the show. Were you able to watch the show originally?
I watched the show. Well, I'm 23, right? So the show came out in 99, I believe it came out. Yeah. So I started watching the reruns. I didn't even get to catch it.
Got you. Okay, so family could get together, and it could be pizza night, just for the theme of the evening, and watch that show. And some kid could say, "Hey, Dad, remember my saying that to you one day?" And the teenage girl could say, "Oh God, do I know how she feels?" And that you hit on that, and then Dad's out breaking heads, busting balls, and suddenly you go, "Oh my God, but he's a good dad," and all that. And now we have this mixed. Should we love him? Should we understand what's going on? And here's what I feel. I hear it's your favorite show of all time, but I feel very strongly, if it were not anybody but James Gandolfini, I don't think there'd be a Soprano.
That's what I think too.
I don't think the writing was wonderful.
Hmm.
Chase had a great vision, wonderful. But it was Gandolfini. He was born to play that role. There's no one else in the world. I could think of other actors' possibilities to play Tony Soprano. Well, I know of a couple. They were one that even offered the role to, and he turned it down. I know. I don't want to talk about it.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
It was offered to someone who turned it down. That's how blessed they were that guy turned it down.
Yeah,
Because
it's a good thing because who knows
that
where it would
guy
have been? Who knows where it would have been the show?
There'd be no show. Okay? It's the actor and his soul. I knew the guy. I got to know him, I got to know him, yes. He was a young man with a very old soul. I'm older than him. I was 10, I'm much older than him. But I looked at him as a peer because he had leadership quality and a sweet soul. And very, very smart guy. I'm talking about not Tony, I'm talking about James Gandolfini.
Yeah.
Very bright, soulful, good human being. And a great actor.
Yeah, he took his character very seriously. I read about like even the way he prepped for his character. He would always stay in character even on set sometimes.
His soul, his goodness, and his power, and that's the man had. And when people sat in their living rooms, and that camera, which is an X-ray machine, sometimes the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to you as a young actor now. When that camera comes in, it reads, and you can fool. I'm quoting Al Pacino. He said this recently, and I love it. You can fool the eye, but you cannot fool the heart.
Oh, that's nice.
People know this. You can't fool in people. Sometimes you can fool them with this. You go, boo, 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 and maybe they'll go, oh, yeah, he's crying. But if he's really crying, right here.
You feel it. You feel it. You don't see, you feel
it. The audience,
yeah.
You can't fool the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. Most of the time, you can't.
No, that's great. Yeah, Pacino
as an audience, the audience, right? And that's what James Gandolfini, he delivered that to their hearts.
Mm-hmm.
His struggle as a father, his struggle as a businessman, boss man, whatever you can call.
Yeah.
But you related to his struggle.
Yeah, keeping two families. His whole struggle was his family with his mob family essentially, and his real family at home. It was that struggle with kind of balancing the both. And he didn't want to lose. And that's why it was something I read recently about those ducks, why he was so in touch with those ducks leaving, because the ducks represented the idea of family and his fear of losing control over the family. So I thought that was very deep, man. It's a very deep show. And many people miss how deep the show is.
It's an amazing show.
Yeah. And your character, Richie Aprile, was one of my favorite and most interesting characters I've ever seen on television, because like the rivalry with Tony Soprano and Richie's unpredictable greed and lust for power made him so terrifying and like just crazy to watch, all the crazy stuff he did, right? What do you feel made Richie so memorable as a character?
I think in retrospect now, when I look back, I think Richard calling him Richard.
Richard, like he's a really stand-up guy. He was such a bad guy.
I'm thinking of him as somebody else as a young boy. I'm thinking of him, and what his life was about is right now. As an actor, I'm sorry. But I think what Richie understood is his tunnel vision. I'm talking acting terms now. Whatever his objective, his need is, at that moment, he is completely myopic, focused, and there is unbreakable. There is nothing going to stop him from his objective.
Mm-hmm.
And there is another thing that nobody ever really, some people talked about. I thought somehow Richie had a sense of humor that nobody quite got at times. And I used to talk to the writers about it, and they all agreed with me. He says, yeah, we agree with you. We see what you're doing. But I always had an anxiety. I says, the audience isn't getting his sense of humor. They're just getting his anger or his rage or his, and I was concerned about that. But now, after this many years and people's response to the character and what I get, it's so unexpected that, you know, the phrase love to hate him, I love to hate him.
Yeah.
But I'm getting that, hey, Richie was fun to watch because he was the only guy that they ever saw Tony Soprano ever really almost frightened by. They've never seen him frightened by another mob guy or one of those. And that was his true rival, his real rival. He was, and the other two, I mean, Joe Pantaleone and Steve Buscemi played
Tony B, yeah, and then even like Phil Leotardo, Frank Vincent.
Yeah, and all those guys. But the only guy they saw was Richie Aprile, was the only one who Tony lost his balance with.
Yeah.
And Tony would say it, why do you make me do this? Why do you make me feel this way? Don't do this to me. The Manson lamps line, you know. And don't
give me those fucking Manson lamps.
Don't give me your fucking Manson lamps. Just fucking stop.
And don't give me that look. You know, it was just a look. It was just, I was looking at him and that would upset him. You know, so people would talk about it. You were the only guy that ever really got to him. And because it was there in real life between David Proval and James Gandolfini, there's a real affection for each other.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with him. He was a sweet guy, and I'm an easy guy. I'm not Richie Aprile. I'm a good guy.
You're a great guy, my friend.
All right, thank you. But so we had a love for each other, and we said, well, how can we? He said to me one time in the hospital scene, he said to me, David, put your arm on my shoulder while I sit. I said, okay, all right. You know, he gave me a piece of which actors never do. I mean, especially if you respect the other actor, you don't tell the actor. But we're free to each other, and I trusted. I said, yeah, okay. So when I walk in the room and he's at the bed, and Michael Imperioli is in the bed, he just got shot.
Yeah.
And I walk in the room, I put my hand on his shoulder, and you know what he did? He put his hand on my hand. Like hold me, and you know, and he said, I hope, you know, they comment on this and they could see he wanted that relationship to keep going.
Yeah. And
he wanted to show another aspect of it too. Jimmy Gandolfini and whatever. But whether that ever read through or not.
Well, it's interesting now that when I rewatch the show for the 17th time, I'm gonna pick up on that little quality.
see, you know, I don't watch it, by the way. I have not seen that show in 20 years.
Really? How come? You just
I don't know. You just hit something. You just stopped me just now. You said you've seen it, and I know people say, I watch it over and over, and I realize I don't watch it. I haven't seen it at all.
Wow.
Not once in 20 years.
Holy. But you've watched have you, back 20 years, did you watch the whole show consistently, or did you just watch kind of bits and pieces of it and stuff? Because I know many actors, they don't watch their own work. So it's not an uncommon thing that you didn't.
No, it's not. But that show, no, I haven't seen it. I don't know if they ever got, I haven't even seen that show, that what I'm talking about. For some reason, I don't know. I just stopped.
Oh, what's interesting though.
Yeah. All right. Because you have to do that. You really have to. If a role is over, you have to have your landing gear. You gotta hit the tarmac, man. You gotta get on the runway. You gotta get off the plane. and you got to leave it behind you. You keep clinging on to it, you know. You've done it, it's done, great.
Yeah.
Pray that people love it or like it or whatever, and go on with your life.
Yeah.
Because you know you can't keep reliving it.
Oh, of course, yeah. But you
It's
said
over.
yeah, but you said something really interesting too about how Tony's like James Gandolfini's character Tony was, in a way, he was intimidated by Rich. He was the only guy that Tony actually feared. And
Right.
this is something really interesting that stood out to me. I'll give you an example. Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, right? Smaller guy, but he was intimidating and people feared him. He was a
Very.
menace, right? But Richie,
Yeah.
on the other hand, kind of like how you mentioned with those Manson lamps, right? He conveyed emotion in a very different way. And I thought that was
Right.
that's what made your character so compelling to watch on screen.
Right.
But how did you get into character, and did you get a lot of creative freedom playing this role? Because going up with a titan and a big guy like Tony Soprano, like, again, you were able to intimidate him. So what were some things that you learned through your character too?
Okay. I'm going to give you the story, and I'm going to give it to you real quick. On the odd, you know, yeah, no. These are good questions. You because you're an actor, so you know what to. All right. The third time they had me in for Richie Aprile. They had me in twice in New York. I went home to Cal. I flew myself back and forth to audition because I was desperate to get on the show. I know it's a great show. I want it. Okay. I go to Silver Cup Studios in Astoria, Long Island. Well, Astoria, New York, you know. I read with Jimmy Gandolfini. They call him up from the set, come up and read with David Proval for this role. We read a scene, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the scene, we're finished reading the scene. I bought a shirt for the audition that I thought would look like a Richie Aprile cheap Italian knit, you know, and I thought it was like very cool shirt. Yeah. Not that I thought Richie Aprile would think it's a very cool shirt. And I wore it for the audition. Now we do the reading, Jimmy and I, and he looks, and off book, this is an improv now, off book, he says to me, and he looks at the shirt, and he says to me, where'd you get the shirt? And his attitude and his was so on the nose, he knew exactly what I needed. The other actor, he was so in tune with what we were doing and what I was doing. And I looked at him and I said, wait, you don't like this shirt? And he said, no, I like this shirt. Rich, no, it's a great shirt. I said, I don't think you like this shirt. And we got into something that the HBO get people, the suits, we call them the suits. Yeah. They were like, wow. And they were laughing and loving it. Now he gets up to leave and they go, Jimmy, would you wait a second? He said, David, would you stand next to Jimmy? And when Jimmy got up, he kept getting up. He looked about 2 stories high to me. He looked like a big guy, you know. And I said, David, would you stand next to him? And I stood next to him and I said, oh, here goes the job. I mean, this guy is 2 stories taller than me. I'm never going to get this job. So I looked at them and I said, you know, I could play 6'5".
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the way to say it.
Yeah. And I stayed in character when I said it. And Jimmy looked at me, he says, I bet you can. He walks out, right? I walk out, I go, and then there's 2 other very famous actors waiting to be auditioned. And they were famous guys. I don't want to say who they were. Not famous, but well-known actors. Yeah. And, two Italian actors who were terrific. Okay. And I go, oh my God, I'm not going to get this. This is over. I walk out. I go back to my hotel. Phone rings. My agent said, "You got it."
That's awesome. Of course, you were already in it. Why am I saying awesome? But it was awesome. Yeah. I'm talking like you just got the role now. It's like, yay, congratulations.
Very good. That's the story. And if it were not, I think, for Jimmy's instinct and improv with me, maybe I wouldn't have gotten the role. Yeah, I don't know.
Everything happens for a reason, right?
I don't know. But there he is in heaven. I'll always love him. Always love him. And I worked with Paul Savino twice.
Yeah, I saw.
Like,
I've seen it. There's a couple pictures of you online together with him. I've seen.
Yeah, 2 movies with Paul Savino. And I got a scene I do with Paul Savino in a movie I did about 4 years ago. I love working with Paul Savino. And I worked with Jimmy Caan. I worked with Jimmy Caan twice. Cinderella Liberty, Harry Gardner Walter Guy. I love Jimmy Caan. He was terrific.
Phenomenal actor. Yeah.
All those guys now. I didn't know Ray Liotta. I never met him. But it's hard, man. It's very hard to lose people. And
I know.
I can get very emotional very easily about it, you know.
Same with James Gandolfini. Everybody you've worked with, man. And even with James Gandolfini, I'm sure he's looking down on his son, Michael, and he's very proud of him because I got to be honest, his son, Michael, did a phenomenal job playing Tony Soprano in the new Many Saints of Newark movie.
Yeah.
No, I have my thing about the movie itself, but
We all do.
but Michael Gandolfini, I thought did a great job, and he's a phenomenal actor. He can't. I don't think anybody else could resemble Tony Soprano more than his own son, and I thought he did a great job. You know,
I didn't see him since he was like last time I saw him. I went to see Tony. I went to see Jimmy in a play in L.A. He did a play in downtown L.A. And we went to see him, my wife, my daughter, and I. And there he was. Little Michael was there, but he was a little guy.
Yeah,
And he was like Jimmy. He was a little bull. He thinned out, so he was a little bull at 5 and 6. He looked like little Tony Soprano.
Yeah,
He really did when he was small, because he was a bull.
yeah.
So people used to look at him and go, "Oh my God."
Whoa. You cut the viewer over? Get the out of here. You think I was going to end this episode off without reenacting some scenes from The Sopranos with the one and only Richie Aprile? You're crazy. Sit back, relax, and laugh with me and David as we go over his most iconic lines from The Sopranos. Enjoy.
What's this?
It's the jacket.
I thought I told you to back the fuck off, Beansy.
I did. Then I put it in drive. What's mine is not yours to give me.
That's great.
The other line I love, and I'm going to give it to you for free, is when he says to Beansy at the table before he hits him with the coffee cup. He said, he asked him, "How much does a place like this grind out? Make every?" And he says, I asked him, "How much does a place like this make every week?" And he says, "Well, it's a grind." And you know what Richie said? "That's not what I asked you." You got it?
Yeah,
you can't be bullshitted too.
Yeah.
I asked you a question. Don't give me a spin. And you can't do that with Richie.
Yeah.
That's not what I asked you. Don't play with me. And then when I read that line before I got the role, I said, the man who wrote this character knows this character, and I know him. It was Frank Renzulli.
That's so cool.
Frank Renzulli.
Well, sucking up to Tony Soprano has done wonders for you.
Yeah, and that that one, that's a great one. And the other one they wrote was a great one. He became a tough guy, you know. And I haven't heard since a kid in Brooklyn, you know, guys who hung out in the corner, whatever, they had aspirations, but they used to say tough guy. They didn't say wise guy, this and that. That came in the movies. They used to say, "What are you, tough guy? Tough guy." You know?
That's so many things. Oh my God, there's so many. That's amazing, man.
That's so inside to say to him, "What did you become, a tough guy?" You know, it's so inside.
Yeah, that's awesome,
really
man. Well, yeah, well.
Okay, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate you coming on today. This was a fantastic time. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this with me. And I hope to stay in touch, man. I have you on Instagram anyways, but I'll be sending you all the stuff. It was a pleasure.
You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best in your career.
Thank you very much, David. And
who knows? Maybe we'll work together. I'll play your grandfather one day.
Thanks, David. Have a great one, man. Take it easy.
You too, my man.